The campaign for women's suffrage in Britain is a profound chapter in the story of democracy, marked by decades of activism, struggle, and incremental victories. From the early discussions of women's rights to the eventual triumph of universal suffrage, this journey reflects broader societal shifts and the relentless pursuit of equality. The roots of the women's suffrage movement in Britain can be traced back to the late 18th and early 19th centuries. Early advocates like Mary Wollstonecraft, with her groundbreaking work, A Vindication of the Rights of Woman, 1792, laid the intellectual groundwork for the idea that women should have equal rights, including the right to vote. However, these ideas did not immediately translate into political action. The first organized suffrage campaigns began to emerge in the mid-19th century. The establishment of groups such as the National Society for Women's Suffrage in 1867 marked a formal attempt to address the issue. This period also saw significant contributions from reformers like John Stuart Mill, who supported women's suffrage and argued for their inclusion in the democratic process. The late 19th and early 20th centuries saw the establishment of two major suffrage organizations, each employing different strategies to achieve their goals. Founded in 1897 and led by Millicent Fawcett, the National Union of Women's Suffrage Societies adopted a moderate approach. The organization focused on peaceful campaigning, lobbying Parliament, and garnering public support through reasoned arguments and respectful petitions. The NUWSS sought gradual reform and aimed to demonstrate that women were capable of fulfilling their civic duties responsibly. In contrast, the Women's Social and Political Union, founded in 1903 by Emmeline Pankhurst and her daughters, took a more radical approach. Known for their militant tactics, the WSPU organized demonstrations, hunger strikes, and acts of civil disobedience to draw attention to their cause. Their slogan, "Deeds, not words," reflected their belief that more dramatic actions were necessary to force the issue into the public and political consciousness. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 significantly altered the suffrage movement's dynamics. As men went off to fight, women increasingly took on roles traditionally held by men, working in factories, hospitals, and various other sectors crucial to the war effort. Their contributions were pivotal in sustaining the nation through the conflict and highlighted their capabilities in public and professional spheres. The war effort bolstered the argument for women's suffrage, demonstrating their integral role in society. The government began to reconsider its stance on women's voting rights, partly as a reward for their contributions and partly due to the changing social norms. The war's end and the subsequent shift in political priorities led to a landmark achievement for the women's suffrage movement. The Representation of the People Act, 1918, was a historic piece of legislation that extended the right to vote to women over the age of 30 who met minimum property qualifications. This act also granted the vote to all men over the age of 21, effectively broadening the electorate. While this was a significant victory, it was not universal suffrage. The property qualifications meant that many women, particularly those from working-class backgrounds, were still excluded. Nonetheless, the 1918 Act marked a pivotal step in the journey toward gender equality in voting rights. The final major milestone in the fight for women's suffrage came with the Equal Franchise Act of 1928. This act extended the right to vote to all women over the age of 21, granting them equal voting rights with men. The 1928 Act was the culmination of decades of activism, struggle, and the changing attitudes toward gender equality. The struggle for women's suffrage had far-reaching implications. It not only transformed the political landscape, but also contributed to broader social changes, including increased participation of women in public life and politics. The achievements of the suffrage movement laid the groundwork for future advancements in gender equality and women's rights. The journey from the early suffrage campaigns to the establishment of universal suffrage reflects a broader narrative of perseverance and transformation. It highlights the power of collective action and the impact of persistent advocacy in shaping democratic institutions and social norms. As we look back on this period, we recognize the contributions of countless activists and ordinary women whose efforts were instrumental in achieving the right to vote. Their legacy continues to inspire ongoing efforts for gender equality and justice.